What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Desi. Let's hit it for your bid in the Cobra Clutch. You know what's up. Today we got a requested video. You see a comment right here. My dog Slick Lord said that he want me to check out this video from Media Retrospective. I don't know why I read it like that. But it's about why I don't like comic books, DC Marvel. I haven't read comics in a long time. Long time. But RIP, Comic Story, and you know what I'm saying? Comic Story and used to have me up on all the comic books. I'm not gonna lie. So rest in peace, Comic Story. And there were other channels too, like Variant Comics. A few other YouTube channels that I would read comics through their videos. You know what I'm saying? But let's see why my dog says he doesn't like reading comic books. Let's get into this.
I don't like comic books. Okay, it's a bit of a blanket statement, but just hear me out.
Listen to me!
When I say comic books here, I'm talking about the mainstream Marvel and DC comics.
Okay.
As I've read a few smaller standalone series, which I have no problems with. And let me be clear here before I start this video, that I don't mean this as an attack against anyone who reads and enjoys comics.
Okay.
I myself have read quite a few series, although I'm probably more of what you'd call a casual reader. So what I'm explaining here is just my own personal opinion and why I personally don't like comic books. There's no denying that comic books are a cultural phenomenon. Characters like Batman, Spider-Man, and Superman have basically become our modern
Spider-Man, the best one out of all them
by millions across the globe. But popularity doesn't always equal perfection, and I want to discuss today what I think are the biggest issues with these characters and their stories. So, whether you're a die-hard comic fan or more of a casual reader, just hear me out, see what you think, and let's jump straight in. The core issue I have with mainstream comics, i.e. DC and Marvel, is what I call the illusion of change. Comic books are masters at making you feel like things are progressing and that characters are growing and that the world is changing. But in reality, it's all a carefully crafted illusion. There's a concept known as a floating timeline, which we need to talk about here. In comics, a floating timeline is a device which allows characters and their worlds to exist in a kind of weird, perpetual present day, even as real-world time passes. So, for example, Iron Man's origin was originally tied to the Vietnam War, and then as time passed, this was updated to the Gulf War, and then later to conflicts in Afghanistan. And whilst this approach somewhat keeps characters fresh and relevant, in reality there is no meaningful long-term change or progression. What this concept of a floating timeline ends up doing is it allows publishers to keep characters eternally marketable, but it comes at the cost of genuine, lasting change. And I know this might sound silly or nitpicky, and we'll keep expanding on this throughout the video, but to me, this idea runs contrary to the very essence of storytelling. I'll talk more about this in the second part of the video.
Okay,
but to me, a story is fundamentally about going on a journey with a character, seeing and experiencing how they change and evolve over time.
I agree with him, actually, on this point. The fact that the characters aren't developing throughout a story that has like a trajectory, and how like it's just like these characters being respawned in whatever current thing is going on in the world. Like how you used the Iron Man example from the Vietnam to the Gulf War to Afghanistan. It's the same shit just being repackaged. Like people get mad when you get an iPhone, the new iPhone come out and it's the same as the last iPhone. You know what I'm saying? Why? Because it's the same shit being repackaged. People want to see progression. People want to feel like their investment of their time in reading these comic books, well, I'm not going to say people, him specifically, feels like the investment of time and care into buying the books and reading them and all this is worth it because there's a progression that's happening over time. But if it's a floating timeline, that's not happening. He's just getting the same shit. And like, I can relate to this on a video game perspective because I didn't buy 2K this year. I heard it was actually a great 2K, but I didn't buy it. Why? Because they doing the same shit. It's just repackaged every year. Same with Call of Duty. I stopped buying Call of Duties a few years ago because I'm not dealing with that shit, bro. I'm not. So I understand his gripe here.
seeing them overcome obstacles and challenges.
Tough.
And finally,
Naruto.
experiencing the
You see
catharsis
the
of
you see the
ending
accounts keep
story
on it. You
and the
feel me? You
resolution
see
of their
it?
character arc. So again, if we come back to comic stories, this crucial, essential element of storytelling is lost. Another aspect of this illusion of change is what is often called a revolving door of death. In comics, death is rarely permanent.
Oh
Characters
man,
die
talk
in
about it.
dramatic, sales-boosting events.
Talk about
only
it.
to be resurrected a few years.
What's
or
this
sometimes
nigga's name again? I don't remember his name, but I've seen him before. I'm sure somebody in the comments gonna let me know what this nigga name was.
even months later. This kind of cycle creates a boy who cried wolf scenario. When a character dies,
He
or
reminded me of the
faces a
Superman of
life-changing
the
event,
Teenage
we
Mutant Ninja
can't
Turtles.
fully invest emotionally because we know it's likely to be reversed.
Yeah, he's gonna come
if
back.
We're
Yeah,
honest,
for sure.
we all know that a character like Superman
It's
or
not
Batman
dying.
can never be killed off,
Right.
or even permanently crippled or changed, because at the end of the day, status quo is king in
True.
comics. No matter what happens, things must always return to a recognizable baseline. And that is why, despite decades of stories,
I don't
Bruce Wayne
disagree.
is still Batman, still brooding, and still fighting the same villains. Peter Parker is still struggling to balance his personal life with being Spider-Man, and the X-Men are still fighting for acceptance in a world that fears and hates them. Any significant changes, marriages, children, career shifts, major character developments, so on and so on, are often undone or retconned to maintain this status quo. And perhaps the most frustrating aspect of this illusion is the concept of the never-ending battle. Superheroes can never truly win. They just can't. If Batman actually cleaned up Gotham for good, or if
He
the
would have nobody to
Avengers
fight,
brought
yeah.
lasting peace to the world,
True.
what stories would be left to tell? And that's why Gotham is still as crime-ridden as ever, despite Batman's efforts for almost a century. And it's why the Marvel Universe seems to face a world-ending threat every summer. The conflict can never truly end, because ending the conflict means ending the story, and probably more importantly, ending the revenue stream. And we all know the money must flow.
Bro, I'm telling you, I think what he just said is the fall of Disney. Disney has just fallen from grace because they want to remake everything. They want to reanimate everything. They want to redo everything. And they won't let certain stories just finish. Finish. I understand. Certain movies, y'all made so much money, y'all could wipe your ass with it. But, you're not doing justice to the stories. Comic books, it's a little more understanding to have longer run times and stuff because that's how comic books are. But with movie franchises and TV shows, there comes to a certain point where the shit gotta end. This is why, for me, Avatar: The Last Airbender is fucking amazing because it had its run. It got to the point it told the story that it ended. Then they try to bring this Korra shit. That shit was fucking trash. Get the fuck out of my face, bitch ass nigga. That shit was trash. Why? Because they tried to do that money came in, that status quo that he talking about, and they trying to, you feel me? The only good part about Korra was the hero. I actually fuck was the hero, that nigga. But I just think that there's a quantity versus quality thing that happens. Quantity as in how much money they make by keep remaking Batman, keep remaking Superman, keep redoing the stories. They can't ever finish these stories, but then it waters down the quality of these stories. After the 100th Batman fight story, bro, it's gonna be damn, and that's why, a lot of this shit, I can't talk about comics because, like I said, I haven't really read comics as much, but a lot of shit in movies and TVs and games and stuff, it's tired. So I'm with him on it. He ain't said nothing I really disagree with so far.
Ice must flow.
This leads us on to the second part of what I wanted to discuss, the cost to storytelling. I spoke briefly before about how I believe the very nature of comic books runs contrary to the essence of storytelling. I think we can break this down further into two key aspects. The first being the lack of satisfying conclusions and diluted character development, and the second is repetitive storylines. So let's discuss each of these in turn.
Okay.
For the first point, One of the most frustrating aspects of mainstream comics,
This kind
and
of
again, I'm
coincides
talking
with what
about
he's
DC
saying
and Marvel
prior.
mainly here, is the absence of true, satisfying conclusions, which goes hand in hand with a dilution of meaningful character development. Think
Yeah.
about your favorite novels or TV series, and think about what makes them
What I
powerful.
say?
Often it's the journey of the characters,
Yes, it
how they
is.
grow and change, and how their stories conclude. In Breaking Bad, which is one of my favorite shows of all time,
I have not
we
watched
see
this.
Walter White's complete
I will watch
transformation
this.
from a
Maybe I'll watch it for
mild-mannered
content.
chemistry teacher to a drug kingpin. The series had a definitive ending that brings his character arc to a close. And this conclusion allows viewers to reflect on the entire journey that Walter White went on, providing a sense of catharsis and closure. But in mainstream comics, the satisfaction is often denied to the readers. The never-ending nature of these stories means that true resolution is always just out of reach. Like I was saying before, Batman will always be Batman, doomed
True.
to forever fight crime in Gotham. Spider-Man will always struggle, balancing his personal
That
life
photo's
and his
so
superhero
hard.
duties. Their stories are designed to continue indefinitely. And so, in a funny way, the characters are doomed to suffer eternally because
Yeah.
they can never be content. They can never be allowed to achieve their goals. And this lack of conclusion robs the stories of their emotional power. It's hard to feel the weight of a character's journey when you know they'll eventually and inevitably return to square one. For me, it would be like watching a TV show where every episode ends with, "It was all a dream." Eventually, the stakes cease to matter. And now, if we talk about
Right.
the second point, which is
Hey,
the
that show was
repetitive
underrated.
storylines,
Was that
I
a
think
movie?
another
That was
casualty
underrated.
of the
Hulk went
never-ending
stupid in
narrative
this.
is originality. I can't even blame the writers for this, because when you have to tell stories about the same characters month after month, year after year, for decades and decades, you inevitably start repeating yourself.
True.
How many times has a hero turned evil only to be redeemed?
Yeah.
How often have we seen the death of a major character?
An infinite
knowing
amount of
they'll
times.
return? Even Elseworld stories and alternate versions of characters, I feel, are becoming repetitive at this point. How many times have we seen an evil Superman? These tropes
Too
aren't
many.
inherently bad, but their overuse in comics has turned them into cliches. It's reached a point where major comic events often feel like reshuffling the same deck of cards rather than introducing genuinely new ideas.
I agree.
I think this really stifles creativity. Writers are often constrained by the need to maintain the status quo, limiting their ability to take characters in truly new and truly interesting directions. Now, having spoken about these problems I have with mainstream comics, I want to quickly touch on a comparable example where I think a lot of these problems are avoided, and that's the Japanese manga industry.
Oh man, I already see how
The
this
manga
is coming
industry's
together.
approach to storytelling offers a stark contrast to Western comics and demonstrates that the problem isn't with the comic medium itself, it's just the specific approach of mainstream Western comics
boy, I
that
see you,
creates
girl.
the issues that we've discussed.
The
I'm actually
baddest.
not sure where this cultural difference comes from, so
Goku
if
Black
anyone
is
is
so
able
raw.
to shed any light on it, I'd be quite interested to learn. Anyway, unlike many Western comics, most manga series are conceived with a defined story arc in mind.
Yes.
They have a clear beginning, middle, and end.
An end.
And what this structure allows
End.
for is several key advantages. Character growth. Characters in manga can undergo genuine, lasting development. Take
Bro,
Naruto,
Zuko
for
from
example,
Avatar probably
we
went
follow
through some
him
of the
right
best
away
character
from when
development
he's a
I've seen in
mischievous
fiction.
child who has been
Prove me
outcast by
wrong.
the village, to a respected leader of that same village, with each experience along the way shaping his growth.
True.
Second, narrative progression. Manga stories can build towards a climax and a resolution. For example, you could take a series like Death Note or Full Metal Alchemist and see that they have complex plots that evolve over time, with actions having lasting consequences.
Death Note was
There's
that-
no
Death
reset
Note is
button
that
at the end of
shit.
each volume. And finally, satisfying conclusions. When a manga ends, it often provides closure for its characters and storylines, leaving readers
But not
with a
the
sense of
fans.
completion
A lot of times.
rather
Sometimes.
than an indefinite, open-ended narrative. I also think that manga allows for greater creative freedom and genre diversity. While superhero stories seem to dominate Western comics, manga covers a vast array of genres, from sports to cooking, to psychological thrillers,
It
to
does.
slice of
Yeah,
life
no,
stories.
he's right.
Manga offers something for every taste, and this diversity keeps the medium dynamic and allows for the constant introduction of fresh concepts and storytelling approaches. Manga creators themselves can take bigger risks with their stories and characters. If a bold choice doesn't work
Ooh,
out,
that boy at
it
the
doesn't
bottom
need to
left.
be undone or retconned, because the series will eventually conclude.
I never
anyway.
fully
And
finished
I
that
think this
show.
leads to more innovative and surprising narratives. I also think the manga publishing model
I got to the
contributes
point where
some
he
of
got
these
that
differences.
armor, the
Many
black
manga
armor.
series are the vision
And
of
then I
a
just
single
stopped watching.
creator or sometimes a small team, which allows for a more consistent and focused narrative compared to the rotating creative teams of Western comics. Don't get me wrong, manga definitely isn't without its own issues, and I know the manga industry can treat its artists and creators really poorly.
That
but
is true.
overall, when we think about storytelling,
Them
I think
JJK
this
dudes
different
was in
approach often
slaves.
results in
They
more
were in slave
satisfying and complete
camps
stories.
during
I do believe that comics as
when
a
the anime
medium
was coming out.
definitely support rich, evolving narratives with genuine character growth and satisfying conclusions. Invincible is a great example, and there's another series I can remember off the top of my head called Irredeemable about the Plutonian, which I also think
Oh,
was a
I
great
heard
comic.
about this.
So all
I
in
heard
all,
about that.
my dislike of mainstream comics, and again I have to emphasize DC and Marvel, isn't really about the medium itself, but about what I consider their lost potential. If we take the individual comic stories on their own, they're actually really good, but you just have to look at them in isolation to the rest of the broader narrative. And also, to be clear, this critique doesn't negate the cultural importance of Western comics
Right.
or the enjoyment that many readers find in them. These stories have created enduring characters and mythologies that have captured imaginations for decades. What do you guys think? Do you agree with me or do you disagree with me?
I actually agree. I actually agree a lot. I don't see any problem with what he said. I think what he said made a lot of sense. It's the issue that I have with a lot of other mediums, i.e. like video games and movies and TV shows, when shit just gets too repetitive and too redundant and there's not conclusion. There needs to be conclusion to everything, man. And when it's not, it gets so boring. Like I just lose interest. And so to hear someone else say it about another mode of entertainment that maybe I'm not as familiar with as I once was dope, man. W suggestion from my dog Slick Lord 5891, man. You got any other requests? You know what I'm saying? Let me know. You get a shout out in the video, you know what I'm saying? YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. We on the grind. Twitch.tv/Desi Lux. We stream every other day. Man, I have no arguments. I was actually ready to come in here and like go back and forth, but hey, we in alignment. But man, appreciate the vid. You know what I'm saying? My dog Slick Lord. Love y'all, YouTube. Appreciate y'all so much. We just hit 100K views, man. Hey, we moving, man. We gonna grow this community. Appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Peace.